the sour cream in this country is garbage, and I'm going to take matters into my own hands. This is kinetic energy, heat, and time.
Yes, I'm making sour cream. Here's the recipe using 2 starters, half a cup of Greek yogurt and 2 cups of 35% fat cream in one jar, and half a cup of buttermilk and 2 cups of 35% cream in the other, to see how the live cultures of each affect the end product.
Now, these require very little input. You need basically 1 stir to make sure the yogurt, or in this case the buttermilk, is mixed through. So there's your kinetic energy. The heat, they need to sort of sit around somewhere between 16 to 20 something degrees Celsius. Fairly broad range, which is fine for here in New Zealand, for the culture to really thrive and for the bacteria in these 2 here to really chew through the lactose that's present in the cream. And then finally, the time. I'm gonna leave them out there for a couple of days in sort of like a fairly balmy 20 something degrees Celsius in this room temperature. And we're gonna see how it ends up.
So after labeling them, I covered them with a paper towel and fastened it down with a rubber band. I want the bacteria to have enough fresh air to flourish, so I put them on the windowsill and waited. Nervousness takes over. What if I'm the idiot that starts the next pandemic and dies of some mysterious sour cream-borne illness? But the texture of the Greek yogurt one looks pretty promising, reasonably thick and creamy, and the buttermilk one, well, it follows suit, looking pretty thick, and these will only develop further in the fridge.
So the sour creams are done. Got the Greek yogurt one here, the buttermilk one here. Let's give them a wee taste test. So first you'll notice with the consistency of the Greek yogurt one, it's quite thick. It's got a fair old solid bit of resistance to it, which is good. I like my sour cream to be nice and thick. So I'll just get some of the excess off. Ooh, that's very nice. That's like Greek yogurt, but better. This one here is the buttermilk one. It's got a slightly more, the texture is a bit looser. Well, let's see if the flavor's any different. Okay, that's very obvious. This one's more complex. It's creamier. It's a little bit more dynamic in its flavor, a little bit more dynamic, that's for sure. Whereas this one is more monotone, but it's more sour, and by quite a margin. This one's got a lot of tang to it. I think this one probably tastes more authentic. The texture is roughly the same, although it's not as thick. So the next test will be to see how these perform against some delicious food.
So shout out to Dawn Fountain, aka A Woman and Her Grill, for giving me this idea with her flatbread smash burgers. I'm making here something similar, and I'm making the flatbreads from scratch. And I'm eyeballing the recipe, so don't come at me asking me for how much I used of this and how much to use for that, because I have no idea. The basic aim is to make a beautiful, fluffy flatbread, stick some spiced beef on it, griddle it, and add cheese, chili, and coriander. The aim is to see how the sour creams go with food of a Mexican persuasion. And while we're making this, I want to ask a quick question if the New Zealand dairy companies are watching. You make all the ingredients to make a proper sour cream, so why don't you? It takes 2 days. Half the stuff you make takes longer than that. Do it properly. You've got all the ingredients, you're halfway there. So this technique here, I'm not sure if this is the best way to make a super thin piece of meat, but it almost comes out like carpaccio. And all you have to do is lay the beef on, flip it over, and peel off the other bit of wax paper. And it goes onto the griddle, give it a flip, add your onions, some cheese. It's looking damn delicious.
try these out with something spicy, something laden with spice and hot spicy. Let's try first the Greek yogurt. It's gotten more thick since it's been in the fridge. Yeah, that's fairly mild. It's fairly mild. It definitely soothes down a bit of the chili. Let's try it with this one here, the buttermilk. Yeah. That does a little less in terms of calming down the chili, but it's got more sour notes. So it actually sort of sits really nicely with the coriander. I think in this situation, this one is better. This one's a little bit more, well, as my wife said, it tastes a little bit more like mayonnaise.
This next recipe is kotletes. Latvians, I know this isn't authentic. I am currently in a crisis of getting my toddlers to eat some frickin' vegetables, so I'm putting them in absolutely everything. Does it change the flavour? Absolutely. Are their palates refined enough to notice the difference of 2 courgettes in the midst of 500 grams of beef mince? Absolutely not. But they come out juicy and tender nonetheless, with a big hit of dill to round out that beefiness.
So we're going sort of from Mexican flavors to the other strong users of sour cream and the heaviest influences of this particular project, the Baltics / Eastern Europe. So I've made some kotletes here, which is basically a risol or a meatball type thing, but with a lot of flavor. Mouth is watering like crazy. So we're going to start off by seeing which one tastes most familiar to me, and we're going to start with the Greek yogurt based one. Another point, it's actually acting a lot like sour cream from a shop in the Baltics, at least. They don't put stabilizers in them, and so you end up with I think it's whey splitting from the sour cream. Overnight in the fridge, it's firmed up a lot. You can see it's like got some really, really solid folds in there. So we'll put some of that on and we'll give it a go. It's still not very sour. Now that it's matured, it's a little more sour, but it's still not the same as at least the buttermilk yesterday. I'm starting to think that this one might be really good for baking. It's not very strong, but it's got a great texture to it. This is the buttermilk one. Let's see how this one goes. Yeah, that's the ticket. That one tastes not exactly like, but very, very close to the sour cream that I was buying in the Baltics. This is a winner. I think the next step would actually be to try it with different fat levels, because this is a 35% fat, well, slightly less after we've added the buttermilk. But 35% fat cream, which is the highest, maybe even slightly higher than what is available in the supermarkets in Latvia, where I get most of my sour cream from. So I'd be interested to sort of thin it out with a bit of milk, maybe bring it down to like 20% and see how that affects the texture and the taste. Maybe it'll be more sour. As far as a preference between these two go, I think the buttermilk one is a strong preference, but I don't think that this one is without merit. I think this Greek yogurt version is great for sweet things. I can imagine this going really, really well with honey, and maybe even trying to turn it into an ice cream, because it's got a bit of a tang to it like Greek yogurt, but the texture's just superior. That fat lining your mouth is just fantastic. So this for savory, this for sweet, and I think that is the answer I'm going to be settling on today.